hear me? Is everything okay? Thank you very much for the introduction, and good evening to all. I'm delighted to be here. I would like to thank the Share Architecture platform for the invitation to present the work of my team. It's not personal work, it's always a teamwork, as well as the Hellenic Institute of Architecture as the local partner here in Greece. Our office, Micromega, has been founded in 2016 by Alexandros Zomas and myself. Our backgrounds vary. We have both implicated in various scales of design concerning architecture and urbanism. Myself, as a graduate from Sciences Po, from the School of Regional and Territorial Strategies, I've worked both in architecture and urban planning offices before setting up our office, and I have always been challenged by the urban condition. So Micromega, our office, it's the name that reflects our perception that micro and mega scales are equally important when it comes to architecture and the city. The large scale cannot be separately seen from the small scale. When we're talking about large scale, we're talking about the urban impact, the strategy, the development, and the evolution over the time of a project. Architecture combines strategies and processes, so it's something that takes along. When we're speaking about micro, we refer to the small scale, the everyday impact, the materiality of the project, the user experience, the immediate context. So our office has as a main aspiration to combine scales and narratives in order to tackle current and future challenges. Our work ranges from public to private projects of various typologies. As a young practice, we have invested a lot of time in competitions, as we have seen from also Leonidas Paparabropoulos and Tsabikos Petras. Competitions have helped us grow and gain access to very interesting projects. Some of these projects we will see together today, and we will organize our thoughts around them. And we will do so through the lens of future living. The ideas that we will explore is how to design the future through the past, how densification combined with open public spaces is an element that can be traced in Greek cities. We will speak about the future, focusing on adaptability and seeing one of the very first competitions that we have gained with Alexandros. And lastly, we will raise the questions of how the typical urban blocks of cities can act as a cell that can help us envision future living. So the first example will lead us through the idea of the future of urban living through the narrative of the past. And we will do so by examining the project that has won the first prize concerning the redevelopment of the municipal market of Chalkida. So our idea is that the city is a palimpsest of multiple layers of time. This palimpsest creates a historical connection and stimulates the collective memory, the sense of belonging into a community. So Chalkida. Chalkida is a mid-sized city in Greece, 1 hour away from Athens. Built on the border of the sea, Chalkida has a long history dating from antiquity. The municipal market, which is the building that we will focus on here, has been built in the late 19th century, in 1885. The P-shaped plan, what we see here, is made out of stone and tiles with a late neoclassical aesthetics. The municipal market used to host a bazaar in the open space between the shops. It used to be the heart of the city of Chalkida. But the needs for space grow, so after a large immigration movement towards Greece, we have an architectural competition that is in the 1930s for the extension of the market. The architects Kidoniatis and Vagianos are awarded the first prize. Their proposal is innovative for the time. It follows the aesthetics of their era, an extension of the market built in concrete, faithful to the mid-war modern spirit, the Bauhaus spirit, which also incorporated some Art Deco elements. The surrounding cantilevers are 3 meters wide, which is a technical innovation of that time. The municipal market was the heart of the city and the social life of Chalkida until the 90s, when the buildings started to get abandoned. This is the pictures from the 70s, and these are recent pictures. Hopefully, in 2015, the building is declared a monument by the state, so an architectural competition is announced later that year to save the monument. Our team wins the first prize in this competition. The main concern of the design was to create a layer, a contemporary architectural layer in harmonious dialogue with the existing, a layer that respects the palimpsest of the history of the building and reveals the different phases. We wanted to take the P-shaped neoclassical extension, reveal the Bauhaus modernism, and add the new layer that would be a more light, a more transparent layer. So if phase A and B have been made out of stone and concrete, more heavy and rather introvert, our new extension is made out of wood, a material transparent and layer that reveals a more iconic and contemporary language. The narrow openings of the shops now become a new transparent facade. And the old stone walls are now replaced by a more transparent and translucent layer, a filter towards the shop fronts and the new extension. This intention has been appraised by the jury. So the building is treated as a vibrant piece of the city. What we designed was not only the building, but also the space in between. The new pergolas offer shadow from the sun and extend the commercial life outdoors. The market also extends its life to the square. The market is linked to the surrounding pedestrian streets, which now the square was an urban void. So we tried to make connections, elevate the square, and introduce new programmatic uses that will make the public square a new vibrant piece of the municipal market. We designed an amphitheater for uses where people could gather, could have theatrical plays, children would play. We created an open plaza for the farmers market that would act as an extension of the municipal market, and various green areas that were vital for the city. This project has been tough to implement. As a listed building, we have passed a maze of bureaucracy and councils. Still, we have obtained the planning permit, and the municipality is currently looking for the contractor. And hopefully we will be able to speak about it in a few years. While looking at Google Maps some time ago, I realized that we have this picture of the render of the competition, which is now up there. So we have the Google history layer there. And I'm going to the next idea that we would like to explore. So how the future of urban living can be seen through densification and creation of open public spaces. And we will do so through the example of the winning proposal for the new headquarters of the Greek Public Power Corporation, they. So this is the first steam-powered plant of Greece, which was built in the late 19th century. The plot is adjacent to the river Kifissos, which is now a national highway, and Piraeus Street, one of the main axes linking the center of Athens to the center of Piraeus. It was a very important plant factory at the time, an iconic building, which is now declared monument. Obviously, it's out of use. It's a major infrastructure. So the Public Power Corporation, by wanting to gather all the offices, they announced a competition which would keep this, which is the historic building, and it could extend to this plot and to the left plot and the plot below, which were old warehouses that would be replaced by the new building. Our instinct is to create a landmark. We are in the middle of two major infrastructures where we want to build the new face of the Public Power Corporation. So our first instinctive answer is to densify. We propose a building that rises high and creates an urban landmark. It is adjacent to major infrastructures, so the icon is very important. We have examined the visual perception of the building in order to see the places where we would enter the plot, as well as the different air schemes that would flow around. Our idea was to unify all the plots by creating a solid ground basis. Then the building would rise up the floor and create a second open square. The main idea would be to create a threefold building that would answer to the existing threefold historical complex and create a park, an urban park, an open accessible park to the area. The idea was to create a dialogue between the old historical complex and the new building, a dialogue that enhances the multiple layers of history of the city. As image is important, brand image of this corporation is also important. So the identity of they, which is the main provider and creator of energy in Greece, should get a lift. The new building acts as a landmark. It has a distinct monumentality in this threefold distinction. The public nature of the space and the building are further explored through the elevated pilotis, which creates an extension of the public space, as well as the differences in materiality that are creating this new identity. The facades are treated by shading filters that control the views and the diffuse sunlight. This is also reflected into the interiors. So apart from the building that acts as an iconic landmark, we wanted to create an open urban park accessible to everyone, a park that would enhance the character of as in the new era. So it will be a park dedicated to sustainable forms of energy. And we do so by declaring three topi, three places that are dedicated to the water, to the sun, and to the air. So the sustainable energy forms. The Plaza of Water is a shallow pond that generates a natural cooling effect and acts as the entrance from the railway station. Still chairs around the water create a space for the users to manipulate for themselves. Then we have the sun path, the linear canopy that accommodates exhibition, markets, and events that has solar panels that provide energy for the rest of the park. While the third space would be a sunken amphitheater dedicated to the air. The air garden can host performances, meetings, and events, and the space is surrounded by plantation, by which that follows the flow of the air. So densification of the built and public space. These are the main ideas that we try to introduce through this example. And moving on to the third case study, we would like to talk about adaptability and synergies. This is a proposal for a competition a long time for us ago. So it was in 2012. The project Shelter for All would reply to needs of metropolises. We decided to focus on Istanbul, and more precisely the case of Gecekondu, which is the informal settlements that were built overnight by concrete, timber, and disused material. Our idea was to provide a methodology that would combine a solid core, a prefabricated concrete core that could be introduced, and then the inhabitants would build around this concrete core by timber the houses for themselves. So we have a prefabricated box that accommodates the kitchen and the bathroom, so the wet infrastructure that could be supplied by a manufacturer, and around this would evolve the living spaces in a more light and flexible structure that can be built by the inhabitants themselves. This idea introduces the synergies and the adaptability. What we wanted to show is how we can improve the housing conditions of the cities by supplying them with knowledge. So we're not providing the whole housing, but we provide a tool around which we can evolve, we can build our own house. Synergies create long-lasting bonds and offer methodologies that can be reused in other situations. So through synergies and adaptability, it's a way of empowering local populations. The last case study that we would like to explore is mainly focused on the urban block and the programmatic mixity. So how we can redesign in a holistic way the urban blocks in order to provide this generic urban module with a social interaction and a public space character. We will do this by exploring a proposal for a competition in Thessaloniki, which is in this plot in the center, in the suburbs of the city. This used to be stable horses, and by removing them, the municipality wanted to create a complex of common interest. So the plot would host 9 different uses: the kindergarten, the daycare, municipal sports hall, a multi-purpose hall, a medicine office, and exhibition space. Our idea was to use the urban block in order to propose a porosity, an open space that hosts social interactions and offers this programmatic density. One of our main ideas was how to take one use and to reply to needs. So for us, the public library is an important use that is actually lacking in Greek cities. So the library would act as a community condenser. The proposal introduces a new meaning to the building complex by separating this use of library. In our digital age, it has been proven that the role of libraries in local communities is very strong because it ensures not only social integration, but also lifelong learning. So the library is designed as a building in its own. It is the main facade of the square, and it has a direct connection to the community. So one of the main ideas was to introduce this use in parallel to the porosity of the urban block. The urban block is divided. It has a passage through it, so it creates a new passage through the city. What we also wanted to introduce was this continuation through the double skin. This double porous skin made of ceramic tubes is introduced in order to filter the views, offer shadow and vertical plantation, and create this unifying character around the whole. The heart of the complex acts as a secondary courtyard. And what we also wanted to introduce was the programmatic mixity that could also be a 24 programmatic importance. So how we introduce into our cities uses that create vibrant public spaces through the day. And I would like to sum up in this point. Every project where we participate is for us an opportunity to put forward ideas about urban life and test them, research and create questions. For us, questions are the most important stage when we design in a competition or in a private commission. Architecture is a holistic project that combines strategies, and it takes time. For us, one of the things that we have understood is that architecture takes long to be designed, takes long to get all stakeholders to agree. It takes even longer to get planning permits sometimes, and long enough to get built. So I would like to finish by what we believe. What we believe is that every project is mainly a process in time. So for us, the future is mainly a present tense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. PAPAVASILEIU, for this very well-organized lecture, very thorough, both in terms of its concepts and the way you showed us the buildings and the way they relate to them. I think it was well related to the whole event today. You talked about the city through the projects as palimpsest. You talked about the urban block, public spaces, adaptability, and your last sentence about the future and the present, I think we should keep. If we have time, I'll see if there are any questions. I would like to just ask you, and if you can elaborate a bit more. It's something I wanted to ask Hermann Herzberger, but maybe you can say a few things about it. You talked about scales in the beginning, how important they are, and they relate even to the name Micromega. Actually, a novel by Voltaire, since we have the last two speakers related to France. And it is something that interests you, and you said you cannot separate them. Can you illustrate some more the importance of small scale in your thinking or in the projects that you showed us? Say a few things about it.
Well, every time we design, whether it is a competition or a private commission, we try to reply to many questions, and questions come from the great range of scales. So the context is always very important for us. We try to elaborate an architectural language that takes inspiration from the context, from the history of the space, and also from the program itself. For us, it's very important to create in the beginning diagrams for our thoughts in order to have more clear perception about where we want to go, how we will elaborate a vision. And then as we design and as we elaborate the object, comes a small scale. And there we have the materials, we have the construction details, we have lately we have a lot of not only sustainability, but resilience in mind. We have seen a lot of climatic, how the change of the climate impacts in urban conditions, and architecture has to reply. We're not innocent when we build, and all the methods and construction methods have to be a common decision between architects and civil engineers and mechanical engineers. So when we're talking about scales, we always balance between the environmental impact and how we're going to implement it.
Right.
I don't know if I have answered your question.
No, I find your answer very interesting, because you specified exactly what it means for you, and so I still have something to answer Hermann Herzberger, because there I'm going to ask him about something very small that always intrigued me. But I think your answer, as your lecture, was very thoughtful, and thank you very much.